85 to 90% of all documented serial killers are men. So Liz, what specifically did you hope to accomplish by flipping the script and showing us a female serial killer?
I did a bunch of research about female serial killers, learning about what would get a woman to a place where she would kill multiple people. And what I found, not surprisingly, is that a lot of them, almost all of them, have been victims of violence themselves. And then a lot of them are caretakers, which I thought was also really interesting. What does it mean to experience violence and kind of become violent yourself? And how do we feel about that? And, how does that work in the justice system, where you often have to play a role of sort of good guy, bad guy, perfect victim. You often have to present yourself in a certain way to get any kind of justice. That really got me going and kind of excited, and that's kind of what the show is about.
Female rage is having such a cultural conversation moment currently. So what do you think people still misunderstand about women's anger, their motivations to do sometimes bad things, even if it is in the name of justice?
I think they misunderstand absolutely everything. To say that it's almost like having women's rage is having a moment, it's because it can only have a moment and then we have to forget about it again. This runs so big and so deep. What is so great about this show is that we present victims and survivors who aren't perfect, who don't play that role, who are allowed to be complicated and grey and messy, and then the audience has to receive that and start drawing their own moral lines. And then their moral lines might start being pushed a little bit further and further. And I think the conversation that comes from that is going to be really interesting. In terms of the global understanding of the rage, I think it's completely misunderstood right down to its very core.
We're so used to seeing men as the anti-hero or these morally complicated characters and protagonists. So what changes when now the character forcing us to wrestle with that is a woman? And what was it working with that experience and having to grapple with that yourself?
These characters don't know that they fit into a statistic, and the choices that they're making are not being made based on the history of male domestic abusers. They're being made out of what their wants and needs and fears and issues are. Marshall and Alice and their dynamic, from an outside perspective, that fits into statistics and a story that's all too common, but for them is a very specific, unhealthy, abusive dynamic that also has a lot of, Marshall would say love. I don't know that other people would say that, but in his mind, love.
And for me, this show that was created by this brilliant power. Liz is so powerful in every way. And Emmy is so powerful. Just being a part of a show that has been shepherded by these incredible women was just such a privilege to be a part of. And then to see these characters who are taking their power back and using it for better or for worse. And Nora, who, she is powerful in her own way. So all of these sort of underestimated women rising up from the ashes, phoenixes, that's what makes the show, one of the things that makes the show so special.